70% of folks have absolutely no estate planning in place. That means no will, no trust, no powers of attorney, no directives, nothing. Nothing to appoint anyone they trust with the legal authority to act on their behalf if something were to happen. Are you one of them? I don't think it's a lack of money. We spend lots of money on lots of things, right? Maybe more avoidance. Somehow, maybe it emotionally links us to our final demise. I don't know. But whatever it is, 7 out of 10 people have nothing in place. I think it amounts to procrastination. You know, we do it, all do it from time to time. But what about procrastination that is absolutely paralyzing? I want to talk about that today. Have you experienced that? Do you know someone who's a procrastinator and you've tried everything you think to get them moving on something that you think they really need to do, but you're still sitting there like a lump on a log? I know people like that. Procrastination is real, and I see it all the time. Do nothing and wait for the damage to roll in, right? It reminded me of a story that I wanted to share with you. I've been watching an old school here in town be torn down. It's just down the street, but one of those big brick eaters, the tractors tearing away at it and just leaving the building in piles of rubble. I don't know what they're going to build there, but they're tearing down the school. And I've seen all kinds of people on social media just boo-hooing about the building, saying they had so many memories, how blah, 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 how sad it is that it's gone. You know, the reality is that building has sat crumbling and deteriorating for 20 plus years, and probably even longer. I know because I drive by it at least 2 times a day. So why didn't any of these people that boo-hoo, why didn't they do anything to protect the building, to save it, come up with a new use for it, right? If they cared so much, why didn't they do anything? You know what I think? I think they didn't care enough to do anything about it. Now when they see the result, it's all the hue and cry and so sad. Well, that's kind of what I'm talking about here. You know you should do it, but you don't. And if you wait long enough, you're going to create a huge problem for yourself and your family. Procrastination. You care, but you don't care enough to do something about it. Plain and simple. I've spent now almost 2 years, believe it or not, on my own time, my own money, all kinds of effort to give you this podcast. I'm trying to educate you, encourage you to move forward with a plan for your estate planning and your older years. Why? Well, because I care. I see all the time what happens when it's too late or they never got to it. Well, Nancy, what do you mean by that? What does that have to do with estate planning, right? Need to invest time in planning. Well, you need the right documents, like I started saying, enforceable documents that work for you. You need some asset planning. You need some long-term care planning. You need to understand eligibility requirements for assistance as you get older. Chances are you're probably not going to qualify. You need to know that. All of that you need to know, okay? And 70% of us have done nothing. That's procrastination, just like the demolition of that old school, except it's your life, your independence, your quality of life, and your ability to make your own decisions. All of that is going to come crashing down on you, and you're going to lose your freedom of choice just because you didn't take action. You want to overcome that? Stick with me. Welcome back. As you probably know, I'm Nancy Cogar, and this is Boomer Time. Boomer Time is all about getting that information out to you so you'll be better prepared, aware, and ready for older years in your life. And procrastination, like I said, is a big stumbling block for so many people. You're not alone if you're a procrastinator. I started looking at people that were infamous procrastinators. And believe it or not, even an artist like Leonardo da Vinci, all these beautiful masterpieces he made, Mona Lisa, The Last Supper, guess what? He had left so many unfinished works when he died. He just procrastinated all the time. He left jobs, didn't come back for a long time, and then come back to fix it. Then he'd paint over it. He was easily distracted. And it took Leonardo da Vinci 16 years to finish one of his most famous paintings, the one at the Louvre in Paris, the Mona Lisa, right? And when he died, like I said, he left all kinds of things unfinished. Don't leave things unfinished. I will tell you that one of the biggest sources of my clients is people who don't want to create a nightmare for their family after their parents or another family member created a nightmare for them. So don't do it. But I ask you, if you're in that procrastination, do you want to stay there? I could try to help you move it, when it comes to planning. And really, planning is essential. Don't wait until you're in a circumstance where you need someone to protect you and there's no one in place. There's no one authorized. You don't have the resources or the ability to have care and housing like you would prefer. All that has just dwindled away in your procrastination. Now you're faced with dealing with the government, trying to get subsidies or eligibility for assistance if you qualify. And, most of the time people have to spend everything down, everything that they saved over their lifetime. That will make you stressed and it will make your family stressed. So my question is, why would you do that to yourself? Why would you do that to people you say you love? Plan, please. 70% of you out there, that's 7 out of 10, are making this decision to not do anything. And because you haven't done anything, put a plan in place for you, your stuff, and your future care, quite frankly, it's just foolishness. It's time, people. It's time to take action. Do something. Your future self will thank you. So will your family, really. So how do you do that? Well, I got some ideas for you. We're talking procrastination, more specifically, procrastination that leads to not planning the way you should in your older years. And I'll start with a question. What would you do if there was some unexpected event right now? Right now. Do you have anything in place? That creates a crisis. And if you're not prepared, you're not prepared. And it becomes even more of a crisis. You have to move forward. Hey, I recently lost 20 pounds and I was planning to lose more, okay? It's not easy. I've lost weight before. Sometimes it's that same darn 5 pounds I lost back and forth for years. I could say I lost 150 pounds. It's the same 5 pounds, but what are you going to do about it? Have you ever done that? Everybody says they're looking for the secret, the magic pill, right? Well, I thought about that too. And, the weight loss industry, just the weight loss industry itself, is valued at $300 billion every year. That's so much money thrown at a solution that most of us don't get a solution out of. They're believing that there's this secret or shortcut because the real planning and the things you have to do are no fun, right? You just have to do the work. You just have to do the work. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to planning. Here's another question for you. I'm being hard today, aren't I? But I care. I want you to take the action you need to take. So, do you have a lock on your door? Do you have insurance on your house? Well, if you do, which I'm thinking you probably do, you obviously care, right? To some degree about protecting yourself and your things, right? If something happens, you want to be covered if something happens. So why don't you care about yourself and your family enough to put an estate plan or a long-term plan in place? Have you talked with your friends? Do your friends, you got a friend there that got moved out of their house into assisted living? Why do you think that happened? It's part of the lack of planning and crisis management. Proactive planning is the secret and the solution. It takes effort and time. And, you know, it's the same thing when you're not planning. If you're not taking time to plan and do, you're not going to know what that road looks like ahead. And when something does come up, your options or what you have as far as resources to navigate through that, they're going to be limited. These are the facts, folks. So, without a plan, like I said, oftentimes you'll experience unexpected situations, last-minute scrambles. You hear about families going through this all the time, don't you? It all leads to heightened stress and anxiety. So while you're procrastinating and trying to avoid doing something, all you're really doing is creating more uncertainty and more stress for everyone. It's just crazy. And I don't want you to be there. I want you to start planning, putting things in place. Don't do it yourself, right? Don't do it yourself. If you broke your leg, would you look up on the internet how to set your leg? If you found out that you had to have eye surgery, would you look on the internet to figure out how you could fix your eye? No, no, at least if you're not crazy, you're not going to do that. So don't go on the internet and think that's going to be your easy fix for your estate planning. You're making a problem for yourself. Okay? I'm telling you, failing to plan is going to lead to all kinds of missed opportunities when it comes to protecting all you've worked for all your life, protecting your family from hardship, from burdens as you age and decline, opportunities to pick where you want to spend the rest of your life. You know, I just want you to do the right thing. So it's the same thing too in business. I have people, small business owners, they have no plan in place for their business. What happens to them? What do you think is going to happen with that? Something happens, the company is going to be left with people who want to be paid, people who are depending on you, and a business that is really stuck. So that has to be part of your estate plan too. You're just you're just making it more complicated by not putting a plan in place. So, if you are wanting to be a reformed procrastinator and start working on getting your plan in place, I have some suggestions for you coming up. So, admittedly, I've given you kind of a hard time today, but it's only because I care. I'm not mean. I just want you to be ready and prepared. So, that's what this podcast is all about. And then you can take the action, call me, and we can schedule a strategy session. I'm here to help if that's what you decide to do. So, remember too, it is just as important, if you haven't done this already, to like and subscribe to Boomer Time. That way you'll never miss an episode and you'll be a part of the Boomer Time community. I want you to stick close. We're talking about really kind of life or death things when it comes to the quality of your life. So if you haven't done it already, like and subscribe. And you can find all kinds of resources on my website, which is just simply nancycogar.com. That's easy. And you can reach me there too. Tell me what you think of the podcast. Hey, have I struck a wild hair with you today? Well, let me know why. I want to hear from you. And if there's an issue that you're looking for information on, ask me the question. I would love to know what you're thinking about and what's concerning you, and could make a new episode coming up. I want this to be relevant to you. So, you procrastinators out there, what is the first step in addressing procrastination? Well, I spent some time looking at this, and there's a popular a popular book out. I know several of my colleagues have read it. You may have heard of it. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's on the bestseller list. He has something he calls the 2-minute rule. Okay, the 2-minute rule suggests starting new habits and breaking old ones by doing something that takes 2 minutes or less. That makes it easier to overcome the procrastination because you're not investing time, right? 2 minutes. That seems to me to be the bare minimum of time. So uh, you should build some momentum with that too. So here I'm going to give you something that I think will take less than 2 minutes. All right. It's a simple step necessary to start working on getting that protective plan in place for yourself. Of course, that's what I'm going to suggest, right? You may not have all the answers, but this is going to help you identify your concerns, your issues, and what you need to have in place. All right. So take 2 minutes and call a legal professional, an estate planning attorney, could be me, and make an appointment with that professional. Choose a plan, pay for it. It's going to be an investment, but don't be cheap on that, okay? It's better than the cost of all the damage down the road. Trust me on that. The planning is much worse, and people like me will help you avoid a lot of those issues that come up, which are expensive, both emotionally and financially. You're going to want to look at your personal information, your circumstances, because nobody else in the world is exactly like you. You need a specific plan. There's no such thing as a generic plan. I don't know, that lead to a generic disaster. So ask questions of that professional. Ask them what something means. Tell them what you're concerned about. And they will absolutely tell you what you need. And that's going to include a healthcare power of attorney, a financial power of attorney, end of life directives, advanced healthcare directive, living will, last will and testament, maybe a trust, maybe a special needs trust. Your circumstances will vary, but it needs to be done in a way where they're assessing your issues, your concerns, and what will work best. So you're going to want those originals to be put somewhere in a safe place where they can be found. So that's my 2-minute habit breaker for you. Call an attorney, an estate planning attorney, and make an appointment. It'll take less than 2 minutes, but you'll be glad you did. So more than half of all adults haven't done this. And I've said it before, but I think it's important to bring up again. There's a storm brewing, folks. Less than 10 years from now, there are going to be more older adults over age 65 than any other age group. Do you want to be a part of a group that's not prepared? I don't. I'm telling you, you need to get ahead of the wave. Literally, they are calling this aging of America the silver tsunami. They're calling it that for a reason. And it's not because it's fun. Tsunamis are devastating. And this is potentially devastating. It's going to cause problems at every aspect of what we're used to. It's going to be harder to get in to see doctors, harder to find assisted living facilities. And if you don't have things in place, trust me, that's going to make it even harder. This is devastating. Don't get caught in that. And really, that's just the bare minimum. There are other landmines looming, and that has to do with long-term care planning. That is such a minefield. Such a minefield. Well, have I touched a nerve with you today? I hope so. And maybe you'll do something to avoid having this happen to you. Nothing could make me more happy. So, second question for you. Does this sound like anybody you know? If it does, you're right, they need help. So how about sharing the podcast with them? They need this information. I'm a busy attorney. I love my clients. There are just more people needing help than you can imagine. So take some action, share the podcast, tell them to like and subscribe if you haven't already. You're helping me reach people. So before the break, we talked about the basics, and I want to bring up one last tender topic, and it's time sensitive. It's capacity or incapacity, otherwise known as dementia, cognitive decline. A diagnosis is going to mean that you will be incapacitated at some point. We don't have any kind of real timeline. It affects different people differently. And, at that point, you're going to be unable to make decisions, unable to care for yourself. That's the case soon after a diagnosis sometimes is too late to plan because you can't make decisions anymore. You have to have that capacity to make these documents. So if you don't have the ability to do that anymore, what are you going to do? What are your loved ones going to do? They're not going to do nothing, right? If you do nothing, sooner or later, you're going to end up in the emergency room, and the hospital will file a conservatorship petitioning the court to appoint someone to take care of you. That's how that works. And that's the worst case scenario. So don't do that. Not planning for incapacity is such a major blind spot. So you have to prepare for these things so that you and your family are prepared. It's called testamentary capacity. Well, I've riled you up today, I know I have, but I hope it leads to you taking the right action. And thanks for listening. It's all about having you be better prepared. So keep listening to Boomer Time, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.